What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with a quick video to break down some major post-campaign quests for the final shape, which are going to be worth paying attention to. And this does include exotic quests, so we can get access to the Ergo some exotic sword, which is the first randomly rolled exotic sword in the game, or exotic weapon in the game. But we also get access to the Still Hunt exotic quest, and one of the harder exotic quests, which is for the new exotic trace rifle, the Microcosm, all of which are available to both start and complete right now, and especially in the case of the Microcosm quest, it isn't immediately obvious that that is the case, so there's a useful shout there, but also some bonus mission content or alternate versions of missions from the campaign, which are linked to some of the exotic pursuits, but also grant us additional aspects for the Prismatic subclass. And so there are a few things to bear in mind. We're going to break them down in the video today, as a lot of folks will be kind of heading out of the campaign and starting out with more of the endgame content. So I hope this heads up is useful. If it is, a rating below really does help us out on the channel, but without further delay, let's get into it. And we'll speak initially about exotic quests which become available pretty much immediately after we complete the campaign. So firstly, for folks who complete the entire legendary campaign, as always, we do get to choose between the two new exotic armor pieces for each class. So whatever class you're playing on, you'll get to pick one of the new exotic armor pieces. That doesn't include the new class items, as they'll be rolling out next week from a different activity. But keep in mind, any exotics which aren't claimed as part of the legendary campaign do need to be earned via Master Raoul's rank system, where we essentially level up by decoding engrams. That's the first thing to mention, but additionally, once the main campaign is concluded, we do get the exotic quest for the Ergo Some Sword, and this is a quest called Destined Heroes. I've got a full quest guide for this one, as there are a couple of intricacies. It actually requires the completion of 2 additional legendary quests within the exotic quest, so there's a bit of work to do there, but it's available for players to earn right now. And one of the cool things about this weapon is that every time you pick it up or get a drop of it, including from the quest itself, it will actually roll with different perks and even different sword frames, which is pretty wild. After you earn Ergo Some from the quest itself though, it can also be found as an additional random drop at the end of activities on the Pale Heart, and that does include the Overthrow activity, as well as some of the other repeatable content, where we're able to get random drops of the weapon that come with the Vortex frame, Caster, Wave sword frame, Lightweight frame, and Aggressive, but it's also able to roll with its own version of something similar to Wolfpack rounds. Then alternatively, there's Gathering Light, where stowing the weapon restores ability energy based on final blows, Sacred Flame, where heavy attacks mark targets and light attacks detonate them, and then the Perfect Fifth, where every 5 hits attaches a delayed detonation, Arc Conductor, where heavy attacks surge lightning from the user, and then there is Stormbringer, where rapid final blows create a lightning storm, Unplanned Reprieve, where heavy attacks emit delayed detonating projectiles, and finally, Insectoid Robot Grenades. So this is an absolutely wild exotic sword. And the other good thing is that during the actual completion of the quest for the Ergo Some, we do get access to the quest for the Still Hunt exotic sniper. And this exotic quest is called Wildcard. It'll actually be given to us by Cade shortly after we begin the quest for the Ergo Some. Probably the easiest quest overall, as it is essentially just a mission where we do some exploration on the Pale Heart. And it's safe to say it is literally a more casual mission than most of the campaign missions, so don't miss out on that one. My next mention though is for the Microcosm exotic trace rifle. This is a heavy trace rifle, which is interesting, but to get access to the exotic quest itself, we do have a new vendor inside of the Lost City Tower called Mika, and they'll have a series of quests entitled Convalescence. So the first one is called Rootbound, and we need to explore various search areas in the Pale Heart to find the missing and possibly injured ghost. These search areas are actually highlighted on the map with a sort of circle, and there are actually a total of 3 legendary quests which need to be completed at this vendor. The first being Rootbound, the second being Underbrush, and the final one being Greenery. Most of the objectives are fairly basic destination things, a little bit of hunting around, but once all 3 of those legendary quests have been completed, which will roll out in a sequence, so you can only do one at a time, but every time you complete one, a new one will pop up, until you ultimately get to the exotic quest, which is one I'm actually yet to complete, but the exotic quest is called Convalescence Budding, and it requires the completion of campaign missions on cooperative focus mode. So once you actually pick this exotic quest up, on the Pale Heart map on the right hand side, in the sort of campaign section, 3 new versions of Final Shape missions will show up, and these include Ascent, Descent, and Iconoclasm, and the activity power cap for these is actually 2005 power, so they're probably ever so slightly more difficult than the normal legendary missions. And also, with them having a cooperative element, they actually require a fire team because some of the mechanics inside of the missions need at least 2 players in order to actually progress through them. So me and my clanmate Johnny actually completed the first of these missions, which of course is Ascent, but we found that in certain areas, Bungie had actually added a Berserker enemy, which were the ones from back in Scourge of the Past if I'm not mistaken. Whereas they become vulnerable, one player has to shoot the front of the enemy, and the other player has to shoot the back in order to stun them. Following that, they can be killed, but that's just one example of these sort of cooperative mechanics that are added into these particular missions. But otherwise, if you can get all 3 of those missions done on that difficulty, the Microcosm Exotic Trace Rifle will be available as well. Something additional that actually can drop from these missions though are legendary consumable items called Memories, and these are actually linked with acquiring additional fragments for the Prismatic subclass. So the one I got from our mission completion here is Blooming of Light, and when you have one of these quests, a search area will be highlighted on the Pale Heart map. So you can see this sort of circle right here, and somewhere within that area, on the actual destination, will be a prismatic chest. And it literally has the prismatic colors and animation over it, so pretty easy to identify once you do spot them, but essentially we have to search the area, and from using these consumables in this way, we are able to unlock additional fragments. So I don't know if that will account for all of the fragments that we'll eventually get for Prismatic, but it's at least a starting point we have for now. So those are some major pursuits which immediately become available post-campaign. Of course, they are in addition to things like Pathfinder, some of the additional objectives, and more minor quests. So a whole bunch of juicy stuff right there to think about, guys, and hopefully this quick heads up has been useful. If it has, a rating below really does help us out on the channel, plus be sure to get subscribed so I can keep you posted with more Destiny content. But otherwise, now that the servers are calming down, I sincerely hope you have an awesome day.